So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover two different things. I'm going to go through the names and numbers of all the notes in a scale, and I'm also going to talk more about intervals actually. And another video has some basic intervals like unisons, seconds and thirds. Today what I'll do is within just one octave, I'm going to just go into the later ones and what they kind of look like on the staff. Scale, which originally meant ladder, is a collection of notes that fall into a certain format. Now I'm not going to go into that in any great detail just now, but I just want to cover the basics of a scale. First thing is, if we let's take one like A major for example. The first note or the bottom of the scale is always the key note, or sometimes called the tonic. Each major and sort of standard minor scale, if you like, have 7 notes in them, and once you've played those 7 notes, then you go and you get back to the tonic again, and it just keeps going, and it doesn't matter if you're going up or down. That's just the way that it works. When you play a scale, it's important to know what is called the degrees of the scale. Now that's just a fancy way of saying there's a number for each note, right? So if I just quickly show you, if we take A major for example, if we start on A, which I said is the tonic or the key note, that's number 1. Then you've got B is number 2, C sharp is 3, D is 4, E is 5, F sharp is 6, G sharp is 7, I can't count, and then we get back to tonic, which is 1 again. As well as the numbers in the scale, each note has a name as well. Now, I often forget what these are called, but let's just give it a bash anyway. So, if we stick to A major before, the key note is the tonic, okay? Then we've got the supertonic, and then we've got the median. Then it moves up to the subdominant, then we go to the dominant, then we go to the submedian, and then we go to the leading note, and then we get back to the tonic again. Now, just for a wee bit more information, it's slightly different for the minor scale. You still have the tonic, supertonic, and then you've got the median, subdominant, and then you go to the dominant, and then the submedian, but then you get what's called the subtonic, and then you go back to the tonic again. So it's just that the 7th degree in a major scale is called the leading note, and the minor scale is called the subtonic. Okay, before I go into detail about the intervals, if you've got any questions about scales or intervals or anything like that, then fire them in below. If you're enjoying the video, like it. If you really like it, then subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. Thanks. So today, as I mentioned, we're only going to talk about intervals within 1 octave, so we're going to kind of stick to the basics just now. Also, there's another thing in intervals as well called qualities. Now you can get major intervals, minor, diminished, augmented and perfect intervals, but we're not going to go into them today. Today we're just going to focus on the number relationship between the first note and the second note. Since we're only going to talk about the numbers as well, what's important to know is that it doesn't matter what key you're in. You could be in A major, E major, B major, F sharp minor, blah 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 blah, whatever. The numbers are always going to be the same because it's really the relationship between one note and the next. Now, just for a quick recap, what we do is we always take the interval from the bottom note. So even if you play the lower note after the high note, then we still count the interval from the bottom note. Also, the bottom note is always number 1. You always start on number 1. You don't move a note and count 1, so always start on number 1. One more thing before I actually jump onto the iPad and start, drawing some stuff out for you. And again, it's just a bit of a reminder. With intervals, you get 2 types. You can either have harmonic, which is when you play 2 notes together, for example this, okay, or you get melodic, which is when you play one after the other. Now the interval would still be the same, but as I said, it would just be either harmonic when they're played together or melodic when they're played after each other, one after the other. A thing I always tell my students when we're learning is harmony is vertical and melody is horizontal. I think I've got that right. Yeah, horizontal for melody. Okay, so let's just have a look at the iPad and we'll talk about the different intervals and how to maybe kind of recognise them as well. Let's just grab this. So when we've got our intervals, if I just draw out the five lines on the staff, as I said, it doesn't matter what the clef is. It's always, the interval number is always going to be the same. So if I start here, for example, on a line note, and I move to a line note above it, then that's a third, all right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with line to line just now. So if I take a line and then skip a line, we've got a fifth. If we take a line and skip 2 lines, we get a seventh. All right, so that's your kind of covered your, within 1 octave, that's your intervals that are just when you move from a line to a line. Now, the same goes for, if I take this back, if I go from a space to a space, that's a third. If I go to a space, skip a space and land in the next one, that's a fifth. And if I go from a space and skip 2 spaces and land in the next one, then that's me got a seventh. Now, for the sort of sharp-eyed amongst you, you'll notice that all these are odd numbers. All right. Anytime you go from a line note to a line note or a space note to a space note, then you get an odd numbered interval, right? Which of course means that if you go from a line to a space or a space to a line, then that means you get an even numbered interval. So let's just have a look at that just now. So let's go take all that out. And start having a look at that. So if we go from a line to a space, then we've got an interval of a second. If we go from a line and skip a space and land in the next one, we're on a fourth. And then if we go a line and we skip 2 spaces, we get to here and we get a 6. Okay. Of course, there's only one more interval that I want to cover actually, and that's the octave. All right, so we go from here to here. Again, it's an even number, so if if you go for, you'll be going from a line to a space or a space to a line. That gives you the octave, which can be sometimes written like that, or an eighth if you like, but it's the same thing. Okay, one last thing that I want to cover that sometimes is, I suppose it's one of those might be interesting, might not be interesting things, is the note C. C is the only note that's got some sort of symmetry between treble and bass clef, right? So if I quickly draw out the staff here, 5, say that's going to be treble clef, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get the bass clef. Now, we know that middle C looks like that on either clef, right? Now, if we take the C above that, you'll notice you're going to the third space. This jump here, you're going to the third space. Now, if I come down the way into the third space, then that actually takes me to C again. Now, the interesting thing is if I go an octave higher than that again, if I can squeeze it into the top here, you'll notice you've got 2 ledger lines, and it's the same on the bass clef. You've got 2 ledger lines as well, so they're actually a symmetry. And if you wanted to go nuts, then you could keep on going, and it'll remain the same. I've shown you what they look like on the staff, right? So we may as well have a quick look at them on the piano just to make it a wee bit, to give you both methods of what they look like. So we were in the key of A major before, right? So let's just stick with that, okay? So if I go from the A to the B, that's an interval of a second. 1, 2, all right? If I go to the C sharp, we've got 1, 2, that's the third, okay? The fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And then if I keep on going, we've got the fifth, then the sixth, and then the seventh, and then we finish up on the octave. Okay. So that's us for intervals. As I said, I'll put a link to the previous video that's talked about the slightly more basic ones to give you a wee bit of a recap on in case you missed it, or if this is just a wee bit too much, and then you can come back to this one. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.